What's going on, everybody? This is Super Robot Ed, and we need to talk. Collectors, we need to talk. Hasbro's revenue is still declining. They actually have a good quarter, but the overall estimated loss was more than what they forecasted. I believe that they forecast a loss for the next quarter about 11 to 13%, but actually it's going to be 12 to 14%. Of the brands that actually did do some, good, one of them wasn't really so much Transformers, as I recall of reading. I have not seen this report about Transformers sales being higher than expected. They said that Transformers sales was 5%. I can't see that whatsoever. I've read article after article after article. Mostly what I have read was the things that did well. Most of the people came across, and this is from the actual the CEO, Chris Cox here. He states that My Little Pony did well. The collectible game in China was a leading revenue driver for licensing. Monopoly Go continued to generate lots of money from licensing, 10 million a month in revenue. Overall revenue from the Wizards of the Coast, the gaming subsidiary with brands such as Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, made up for declines in other areas, Cox wrote. The Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition handbook has become the fastest selling product in the brand's 50-year history, beating plan over 50%. And our acquisition of D&D Beyond continues to pay off, driving D&D's total mix to direct-to-consumer revenue from zero at the time of acquisition to 60%, with registered users more than doubling to 19 million, Cox wrote as well. Now, this is from the Providence Journal. This is actually my father's hometown. He's from Providence, Rhode Island. Revenue from the consumer products, this is what didn't do well. They didn't really say exactly which brands. They just kept saying that that the revenue from consumer products came in at a lighter than anticipated as the pace of the decline went down. So it sounds like more we're talking about the toys here. Hasbro lowered its revenue guidance for consumer products, but Cox wrote that we are seeing solid return to profitability for this business. Some rough patches were exiting brands as Hasbro works to sell fewer things across fewer brands. Now, this is something that they kind of threw at us very just nonchalantly, and it has a lot to do with what they said about the release of the 3-packs for the Constructicons. I recall reading that they said that there will not be a reissue of the waves of these figures. And it's also been stated that they were, and this has been months ago, that they were going to cut down on how much of the toys that they make, because it's not so much that toys aren't selling. It's a lot more to it than that. We keep thinking that we're driving sales because all of us collectors and YouTubers and whatnot make these videos, but in actuality, we're not putting a dent in what they really want. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you go to Walmart, there, those Transformer 1 movie promotion stands are full of toys that nobody wants. It was bad to go the animated route. They could have saved that money and used it more for R&D to make better toys. You do recall that at one point, Chug had no cartoon, no nothing, just word of mouth that we're getting, similar G1 Transformers to be created. And during that time, we had cartoons for animated, we had cartoons for Prime, but remember, animated and Prime had their own toy lines. Chug was always like, you go in the store, hey, if it ain't, especially if it's a figure that everybody wants, it's gone. So no, it's different now. It's weird. And the thing is that if they're gonna make less figures, then that means that we're gonna see where people are already complaining that they can't get a figure. You may never see it again. I mean, this is what they said. I don't know if y'all pay attention to this, because I know y'all listen to them wick-wack YouTubers that just spew. That's all they do all day. They really don't. It's no in depth, but that's exactly what they said. And that troubled me because we've heard them say this months before that and then months recently. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say that they're not going away. Hasbro's not going to fail. And it's not going to go to a point where Hasbro is going to be all gloom and doom. But I think it's going to be less toys that are going to be made. And you really should not, tarry. Get your pre-orders in now for figures that you want. And if you're willing to sacrifice, say, I just don't want that figure, expect to maybe have to get it on the secondary market. And that's what I'm more concerned about, because as sales decline and as Chris Cox wants to move to Hasbro just being an IP rights holder and, shucking out, maybe cheap shovelware, Android, iOS games or whatever IP they can sell or let someone else buy to use. We already know Power Rangers are done. They're being outsourced to Playmates. I believe My Little Pony is going to be outsourced, if not already. And there's a few others that are outsourced. It's a lot, and it's a lot to read. But yeah, it's not good. It's not going to be good, because there's only two major companies, and that's Hasbro and Mattel. And Hasbro beat Mattel this time. Mattel was big one time, but nope, their stock price went through the tanker. And believe it or not, despite what we want to think and what everybody else wants to think so negatively, Hasbro is actually still a good buy for stocks. So your best bet right now, especially if you're trying to get these new figures, Age of Primes, the new Studio Series, anything that comes out, especially starting 2025, you better get your foots in pre-orders, like do what you got to do to get them, or you're just going to have to pay the late price, as I honestly believe they're going to follow through with not making as much toys as they used to, and there probably won't be re-releases or repacks or anything like that, or, oh, we'll throw this in another wave. It's like when it's gone, it sounds like it's going to be gone. But what are your thoughts? Leave them down in the comments below. Overall, this is what we're at right now. Just take heed. This is Super Robot Ed, and of course the links to my news articles that I read will be in the description. This is Super Robot Ed, bringing more news and reviews, so we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.